fall, but I can't lose this.
With the Buttkicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Buttkicker, the future is feeling.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Buttkicker, are ready to race.
The month of May is over, but IndyCars return to Speedway, Indiana, as the Lionheart IndyCar Series gets ready to rumble for the greatest spectacle in racing. Before 500 miles around this famed oval, drivers get a chance to build momentum heading into the 4-lap qualifying runs as we get set to go racing here in the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis. Hello and welcome back to racespottv and coverage of the Lionheart Racing Series powered by HyperX, makers of the premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15, that's LIONHRT15, for 15% off all orders. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, and I'm delighted to be joined by Justin Prince and Lorenzo Bonder for tonight's action. TV cameras designed by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com, with additional car cameras designed by RaceSpott's own Tyler Maxson. Let's dive straight into our butt kicker pre-race show. And Justin, it is wonderful to be here at the Brickyard, the home of IndyCar competition. And this is a race that has not really been a fixture in Lionheart competition, only the third running here at the Indianapolis road course. But my oh my, it's an opportunity for momentum as we head to the first Triple Crown of this season.
And that's the key word, momentum. For many of these drivers, some of them have this scheduled on their most important performance nights. What I mean by that is, if you want to have momentum for the 500-mile race, you want to do well here. Get some good points, get some good momentum here on the road course, and score some solid points here at this facility. It's not going to be easy tonight. That's going to be the main thing. But with the month of June being so very valuable here in Lionheart competition, especially in the IndyCar Series, we're going to see a lot of drivers tonight put a lot of emphasis on performing well here in the GP.
And the month of June, of course, started with a trip to the Worldwide Technology Raceway. Gateway is such an interesting short oval, and it was an interesting race in which the Lionheart King, Adam Blocker, finally took his second victory on the season after winning in the season opener. It was a long wait from March to the start of June for his second victory. Let's take a look then at our drivers' standings. It's a 70-point advantage for Blocker, who is done with the month of May in his real-world duties with Ilmore Engineering. That will be a bit of a relief. He will be heading this weekend to Road America to be on the engine for a couple of the cars there. But look at these standings, Lorenzo. You've got three rookies, 5th, 6th, and 7th, but it really is Lionheart stalwarts at the top. Adam Blocker, Connor Harrington, Ryan Otis, the Lionheart Retro King, and Joshua Chin. We know just how strong the King of Chins can be.
Yeah, we know how strong the King of Chins can be. Even won a race back in the middle part of the season, if I recall correctly, was third round. But then again, the field is pretty much stacked right now. Adam Blocker, of course, got the better of some of the other drivers in some of the key courses here. But now Indianapolis, such a tough track to run. This layout is not the easiest for you to go over the mixed portion of the track instead of the oval portion of the track, but it will be a good challenge because the draft here is going to be huge.
Draft is going to be so important, and we'll fly our way down the main straightaway the wrong direction when we return here at the end of June. Of course, we'll be making our way down in towards turn number 1. Those were the driver standings presented by buttkicker. Here are the team standings presented by HyperX, and while it's been Adrenaline Power Slide and Adam Blocker dominating the driver standings, it's the private label Team Hype machine that has now got a 150-point advantage at the top here. And Justin, it's really only those two teams that are in the mix there. Graphics LPM, they are a further 150 points back. For Adrenaline Motorsports Red, they have a lot of strong road drivers. They need to use this race to try and claw that gap back to the front.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Adrenaline Motorsports Red be able to claw the way forward a little bit with this type of race. But don't forget, private label Team Hype has a lot of momentum here with this race in the past. Connor Harrington's performed well in them here in the past, and Joshua Chin, last time this series was on a road course over at Mid-Ohio, came away with the checkered flag. So this is the type of race tonight where it could be either one of those organizations that could come in on top. It's just a matter, though, of keeping yourself out of trouble. That's going to be a very key thing amongst those organizations, and getting the strategy right amongst those teams is going to be also very valuable, Arjuna.
It's an interesting race, 48 laps and at least 2 stops expected. Some other battles to keep an eye out for, of course, Graphics LPM third in the championship with the Elkintech simulation team close in pursuit. Also look out for Sector 5. Lionel Kalisto has been a standout name in that operation. Here are the rookie standings presented by buttkicker, and I was just saying about Kalisto, he's just gone and pipped Jason Brophy to second place in this rookie championship. Bennett, Kalisto, and Brophy have been consistent performers, but Aaron Morgan and Matt Taylor tied on points with 207. They are very strong, not just in this IndyCar, but across all 3 of our Lionheart Racing Series competitions. So watch out for them, as well as the likes of Richie Hearn, who has experience at this very track in the real world, an Indy 500 competitor in the past. Let's talk a little bit about the Lionheart IndyCar Series with the series details presented by Minus 273, the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are super lightweight and durable, made of a breathable poly spandex. Whether you're a kart or a sim racer, Minus 273 gives you control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz, and don't forget to use the promo code Minus273LHRS15 for 15% off all orders. The month of June, it really is all about Indianapolis and the first Triple Crown. And really, Justin, we are almost halfway through this 22 race season at this point in time. Round 8 here today, and it's looking like if anyone's going to stop Adam Blocker, it has to be Connor Harrington. He won here 12 months ago.
Yeah, and that came in a fireworks-filled affair, keep in mind, where Sage Karam was in a great position last year to come in with the checker flag in this GP before contact with lap traffic. Then, Adam Blocker fought with him, and he ended up spinning around after some very aggressive moves by Sage Karam, trying to hold on with wing damage. Eventually, Blocker was also hit with contact as a result of said spin. It was incredible, to say the very least, Arjuna, to see the closing 6 laps of this event last season. It was a fireworks-filled affair. I wouldn't be surprised to see the types of fireworks here tonight, because even with the in-car tools, this is a track we talked about where it can be very difficult to try and make passes tonight. It's going to be very critical to utilize the draft and be able to make some bold moves, to be able to make some of the passes, especially early on in these runs.
And so a couple of things that I did want to point out. First, before we talk more about the event details, let's talk about that drama 12 months ago. Harrington able to squeak a victory on the final lap of the race. Yours truly actually finished in 3rd. It was a very intriguing race, and as series organizer George Anzaldo has just pointed out in our YouTube chat, apparently I also have the official race lap record here. We'll see if anyone can break that here today. The 3rd trip to the Brickyards Road Course, like I said at the start, we have not made this a fixture on our calendar, but it really does fill out the month of June. To come here to the GP first and then to the 500. It's all about momentum. 4-lap qualifying is 1 week from today, and everyone wants to start from the front in what should be a thrilling Indianapolis 500. The pole sitter has never won in 2 previous runnings, and only 2 drivers have led double-digit laps. Neither of them are in competition here today, because Sage Karam, who, if you ask me, Lorenzo, might have been the favorite. He's been taking a little bit of a break. He had a very successful month of May in the real world on his own right, a real-world IndyCar driver. Let's see who'll win here today.
Let's see who will win here today. Karam actually got 7th in Indianapolis, so I think his month of May was pretty much well productive. But it's, again, a very tricky corner, very tricky track for you to make overtakes, like we were mentioning. That twisty section, you have to be very aggressive to allow the other guy to make a mistake. But one thing I'm noticing is the qualifying is not easy as well, because the setup can actually play its part, and for you to get that qualifying run, you need to get it perfect, because some of the braking zones can be also tricky. But that's why it makes this qualifying very exciting, and in position is key here for you to actually get success.
And talking of the setup, it's a custom-fixed setup, like we mentioned, made by the Canadian Andrew Kinsella. What can he do with his own setup? But of course, he's not always just building a setup for himself. He's building a setup that's going to race the best. It's going to suit so many different drivers' styles, and it'll be interesting to see exactly how the various drivers adapt to it. One little tidbit that we should point out, there is no rear anti-roll bar connected, so we were talking about in-car adjustments. There is not going to be any adjustment at the rear of your car to tighten or loosen it up. Qualifying well and truly underway. Already halfway done with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the clock, and you get 4 flying laps to set your fastest lap time. There you can see it is the Lionheart King, Adam Blocker, who sits on the pole position, a 1:11.720. Joshua Chin just over 1/10 behind him with Henry Bennett. That might be his best qualifying performance so far this season, back in 3rd. But I tell you what, we didn't really get a chance to talk about the track too much. Let's take this opportunity to try and jump on board with the Lionheart champion Adam Blocker and run around for a lap here at the Indianapolis Road Course. It's a very intriguing one, and Adam Blocker was winding himself up for one of his final qualifying attempts, has just spent the second half of his lap, cooling down his tires and seeing what he can do here as he comes across the start-finish line to begin this qualifying lap time. Brake as deep as you can down in towards turn number 1. Avoid clipping too much of the inside curb because you need to set up for the second part of the corner and running yourself down in towards turn number 4. Look at Blocker using all of the track and then some at the curb, both on the inside and the outside there, and in towards this double hairpin section. On the right-hand side, Blocker brakes all the way down to the inside. That car is not handling as nicely as he might have hoped as he comes through turn number 7 onto the back straightaway and uses once more all of that track on offer. This will be a passing opportunity, especially because you are coming down into a very tricky left-hand braking complex. It's almost 90 degrees, but it's setting up for not this one, the one after this. Turn number 10. Use all of the curb on the inside, but get yourself set up to the left because now this is the long run all the way out of turn 11, through turn 12, and through turn 13 across the start-finish line. That did not look like Adam Blocker got the best run out of the corner. 60 seconds and counting. You can see him minimizing the distance here as he comes through turn number 1 in the wrong direction. In just 2 weeks' time, we will fly our way 3 wide potentially for race victory. Blocker across the line. Does he improve? I don't think he does, and that will be qualifying done for the Lionheart IndyCar champion. It's a 1:11.747, so Justin, he was almost there and improving his lap time.
Yeah, but I think he clipped the grass coming out of turn 11. That's what cost him the most time on that respective lap and why he was not able to best his lap. He doesn't have that little wiggle from clipping the grass. He likely moves up on the pylon. But some incredible qualifying runs from drivers like Matt Taylor, Brian Beard, Brian Carey as well. 1:12.1s with good track position, improving his times from practice. Aaron Morgan as well, don't forget. He's been very sporty on the road courses as well. Not his best performance compared to some of the other tracks, but a top 8 is going to be very valuable here, I think, today for track position.
Only 28 cars, which is the smallest field that we've had in the 3 races here, but it does mean it will be slightly more interesting, and especially when you come down into turn number 1, Lorenzo, because it's a long run from the start-finish line, I should say, into turn 1, and it's an extremely heavy braking zone. We'll be hoping that all the cars get through there safely.
Yeah, we hope, because that turn 1 specifically, we can see cars going 4 wide. Even 5 wide at some point. It's crazy, it's doable, but often results in carnage. So I think the drivers will pretty much be on their toes and be mindful of the overtakes on lap 1. I think we're going to be seeing more overtakes further down the race.
So 60 seconds left and no cars really with an opportunity to improve on their times. Connor Harrington, the defending race winner, has made his way up onto the inside of row number 2, just under 2 tenths behind Adam Blocker. 45 seconds left here. Let's take a look at the track conditions because it is very, very cloudy, and that's going to be interesting, Justin. Drivers are required to use both the red and the black mark tires, but with the red being so much stronger and with a limited fuel capacity, there is so much strategy here to be played.
We were talking about this a little bit before tonight's race, where with the track conditions being fairly cool, yes, while the track condition is starting to kick up, it's going to be a situation where the reds and the blacks are going to be fairly closer on times as a result of the cooler track conditions compared to, say, a 115 Fahrenheit. It was 39 degrees Celsius, 101 degrees Fahrenheit, for reference sake, at the end here of this qualifying session. So in our words, it's going to be important to make the right decision to be able to utilize the best tire possible. In our words, if you're many of these organizations, you're thinking long and hard about this call, and from it looks like many of the drivers may lean towards the reds here. We'll have to see.
Let's go ahead then and take a look at our starting grid for round 8, the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis. So here's the butt kicker starting grid, and it is the 4-time Lionheart champion Adam Blocker with a 1:11.720 that will start from pole position here. He's only led 2 laps in 2 races at Indy GP. What can he do here today? On his outside, the king of chins, always very strong, embroiled in some controversy as well. I know he wants to put that behind him and focus on the task at hand. For private label Team Hype, they are 2nd and 3rd, and the defending race winner, who only led the final lap of the race, will start inside of Henry Bennett. His best qualifying performance, trying to lead the charge for Adrenaline Motorsports Red. Matt Taylor, what a season it's been, not just in the IndyCar, but across the Lionheart competitions, he'll be inside of Brian Beard, 4/10 separating the top 6 cars. Brian Carey, the Canadian, inside of Aaron Morgan, Justin Weaver, Adam Fraser. They round out the top 10 with Tyler Groff and Stefan Larkamp on row number 6. Jason Brophy, not necessarily the strongest on a road course, but for private label Team Hype, they will be thrilled that Brophy lines up inside of Chris Fowler on row number 7. Jay Brunt, Ryan Otis on row number 8. Watch for the Lionheart Retro Series champion from 16th position. And there is Andrew Kinsella, the setup maker, struggling a bit in qualifying. He'll have some work to do inside of Matt Houston. Christopher Lionel Callisto on the edge of the top 20 with Samuel Ryman and Scott Holmes on row number 11. Jason Galvin inside of Ricky Harding with 1.5 seconds separating the top 24 cars. Tony Shaw and Joe Branch, the final 2 to set qualifying lap times for Adrenaline Motorsports Black. This will be a race where they just try and minimize the points lost. Mike Rasmussen, Mike Rigney, the final row on the grid, so it's all Mikes on row number 14. There is our starting grid, the smallest field from the Indy GP and Lionheart IndyCar competition, but it should be a very intriguing one. The cars roll away, and as always, we have a number of onboard cameras, and not just the ones that we're about to talk to, but onboard looks with all 28 of these IR-18s. Let's start it off, of course, with the Lionheart IndyCar champion, Adam Blocker. He has your HyperX onboard. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Ryan Otis has the -273 on board tonight. -273, the premier name in karting gloves. Visit -273.biz.
Tyler Groff has the Graphics Esports camera, world-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com.
And Samuel Ryman has the Midwest Simulations on board. Midwest Simulations, makers of the Spotlight's visual spotter system. You watch the track, we'll watch the rest.
And of course, like mentioned, not just these 4 cars, but all 28 will have our onboard looks. Great shot of the cars making their way down this back straightaway to get started. We have a couple of moments before we get underway, so it's that time where I get predictions from my co-commentators. Lorenzo, let's start with you. Can Adam Blocker win here today?
He has a good shot, but the problem is Paul Silver never won. Can he break that? I think he can actually do it, but he needs to strategize properly because, again, he will be the prime target over here, and overtaking is difficult.
Justin, you noticed some cars starting on the blacks. What do you think they can do here today?
Keep my eye on particular Matt Taylor to see how the blacks are going to work out for him. He's the highest running driver on that compound. Don't be surprised to see him charge up in the later stages of the run with the different compound.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and for the 3rd time in series history, we are about to get underway for the month of June. Just 2 weeks away from the Lionheart Indy 500, the first of our Triple Crown events. The pace car is down onto the safety of pit lane, and we are underway. Look at Henry Bennett already trying to make it 3 wide as we get underway for the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis. Ben is going to use the draft of his teammate to try and get around Connor Harrington. Terrible start for Joshua Chin as there's an Alcantech car that pokes his nose to the inside, side by side. Harrington holds on to second. Taylor is almost shoved off into the grass. Jay Braun is off the track as well. Only one car unable to get through this opening couple of corners without any sort of issue, but we streak down into this double hairpin section with no major drama. Bennett with an interesting start, and Justin, the question on my mind, is there going to be a penalty for the 07 car?
Yeah, that's my question as well, because that was coming across to the start and finish line to take it 3 wide. It was to the right. We're going to have to wait and see. That's the main thing, because that's an interesting sequence, because he timed it up well, and it could come down to race control to determine that.
The iRacing automated race control will already have rendered its verdict on what happened there. And Lorenzo, you've already noticed no change at the line there, so no penalty. It should be forthcoming on Henry Bennett.
Yeah, he came really close, though. I think that was right about 400 of a second before he went actually to do an overtake at the line. The perfect launch for Henry Bennett. The German is on fire tonight. The Brit is on fire tonight.
And right now has to look in his rearview mirrors as Aaron Morgan gets around Matt Taylor on those black mark tires. Lap number 1 in the books. Adam Blocker leads from Connor Harrington, 1 and 2 in the championship, 1 and 2 on the track as well. Henry Bennett third, Joshua Chin in fourth, with Aaron Morgan 3 positions gained, working his way into the top 5. Jay Brunt is the only car that has to make his way down onto pit road. There was some interesting action between the likes of Andrew Kinsella and Lionel Kalisto. That was an interesting start, and as you can already see here, Justin, on the left-hand side of your screen, a number of cars able to work their way up a number of positions.
Yeah, that 3-wide move, if anything, helped more so Harrington get up to second, if anything else, to be able to pass by his teammate. But Aaron Morgan up 3 positions already. One of your biggest movers so far up the front of the field. Lionel Kalisto up 5 spots. Scott Holmes up 4. Branch and Mike Rasmus up 5 positions apiece. They were able to get some good launches to be able to get around some of the cars early on, but as you can already see, single file train starting to form up a little bit up towards the front, with Blocker trying to break the toe from the draft.
You can see a number of drivers on the button. It's wonderful that a timing tower lights up like a Christmas tree when the moves are forthcoming. Matt Taylor on the black mark tires will lose 1 more position. There goes Brian Beard, but Taylor will fight this one back. I don't know how much he wants to be aggressive here. Has to concede. I'll have to look in his rearview mirrors because Brian Carey will try and follow him through as well. Let's see if I think we are just about okay to go and spool up a replay of the start there, because it was a interesting one for sure, and I think we have to figure out exactly how early Henry Bennett decided to launch. Here it is, the racespottv replay. You can see Adam Blocker almost in communication with his teammate, I would have to assume, as 3 wide across the line. And I think Joshua Chinio Lorenzo decides very early on to get out of that one.
Yeah, he didn't want anything with it whatsoever. Harrington defending on the inside into turn number 1, but the second leg got kind of benefits. Bennett he had to back down because it can get complicated, and then Jay Brent getting into some contact 3 wide on turn number 1. Unfortunate for the number 15 car of Synergy Motorsports Black.
Let's take a look at this aerial look. You can see 2 wide, 3 wide, 4 wide for a moment. It's all sorts of chaos. I think that's Andrew Kinsella trying to slip it down the inside. Brophy almost gets tagged around as well. There's all sorts of chaos there, but only Jay Brunt loses out. And as we jump back to the live pictures, let's pick up the battle for the race lead, because it's already starting to extend as Henry Bennett is now 1 second off the tail of Connor Harrington. And in a racetrack where it is difficult to pass, you don't want to necessarily lose too much time too early on. Of course, there's not going to be any safety car interventions, Justin, to bring this field back together. So if Harrington and Blocker can run away, the championship favorites will duel it out for victory here today.
Yeah, they're in a good position right now to be able to break away from Bennett. In fact, they've pulled away by more than a second already. The main thing I've noticed, though, is they're doing it with 2 different line perspectives. In that Blocker is trying to take some wider arcs to his lines, while Harrington's trying to take the rumble strips a little bit more and a bit more tighter on his apexes. And in turn, Blocker is still getting some distance away from Harrington as a result to be able to build up that buffer.
Talking of Sector 5, by the way, excuse me, that's not Sector 5, that's Scott Holmes. 5 positions gained on the day so far. He slipped down the inside of Andrew Kinsella, heading down in towards turn number 8. Now has Ryan Otis in his sights. In terms of, you can see Brian Beard is on the button and blinking in and out very slightly. He's a bit of in no man's land right now. 2.5 seconds behind Aaron Morgan, with Matt Taylor a further 1 second behind. Taylor is the first car on the black mark tires, with Brian Carey in a similar position. And left-hand side of the screen, Justin, you can see the tire compounds. Only 2 cars, on the black tires in the top 10 positions.
And the main thing I'm noticing, too, at the times right now is they're right now about a few tenths slower by about 3-4 tenths minimum compared to the red tires at the moment with the track conditions. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still a significant amount on the short run that they're losing. They're already nearly 7 seconds behind your race leaders as a result. And while they'll be able to make up some of that ground towards the end of the run, it's the question mark of, can they get themselves on the reds for the middle stint, let's say, to be able to gain the time back and attack, and then in turn, how do they approach the rest of the race afterwards?
Christmas tree, I think you have to look at the tower now rather than at the start of the race. I think that's 7 or 6 cars all on the button. We're riding on with the 17 of Adam Fraser. He's topping out as well. So in terms of making passes, Lorenzo, that's going to be difficult. If they're stalling out at the top of the rev range, they're not going to be able to pull alongside, and you're going to have to wait until you're not in the draft of cars in front of you to try and make things happen. Yeah,
this is going to be quite complicated. I think for now, Brian Carey is in a world of hurt because... Adam Fraser is in a world of hurt because Carey and Taylor, they're kind of like sharing draft sources, not a huge share, but that is enough to not let the guys in the black brands come in and do the overtakes. And I think for the guys in the red brands that are behind those guys in the black brands, they need to be as aggressive as you can be. So be more aggressive and force those guys to make the mistakes and then do the overtakes.
48-lap race and 19-lap fuel stint. So 2 stops the minimum, but you never know. If someone wants to try something bold, they might be able to make it work. Henry Bennett has been passed by Joshua Chin, by the way, so it's now private label Team Height 2nd and 3rd. Adrenaline Motorsports Red shuffled down to 4th, and with Carey in 8th, Kinsella in 18th. That team's championship, Justin, is very much swinging in the favor of private label Team Hype here today.
It's been that type of a campaign for private label Team Hype where they wanted to perform well at this level. They are performing well at this level so far. Jason Brophy currently the farthest back for their organization, 14th for comparison's sake. So they're doing a very strong job, and this has been something we've seen throughout this entire season is they're strong at both the ovals and the road courses. Private label Team Hype as an organization for their driver lineup.
On board with Tyler Groff, the man behind Graphics Esports, of course, representing the Graphics Esports onboard camera as well. And if you loved our race logo that had the famous Yarder bricks right in the background, you will want to head on over to graphicsesports.com to learn more. Tyler as well designs a lot of the cars in today's field, so has a lot to offer. As you can see, the top 4, 3 of them now on the button. The gap between Blocker and Harrington up to 1 second, and I think Adam Blocker at this point in time, Lorenzo, is thinking, if I can pull out of draft range from Connor Harrington, I can start to run away and control this race.
Yeah, but he needs to be right about 1.5 seconds away from Connor Harrington to stay within that relative safe margin of not Harrington to come closer and then manage your own race. So far, still under the second for Blocker on Harrington, so he's going to have to put a little bit more work to keep away the number 44 car away from his reach.
And while it's kind of extended at the front, there is a palaver from, I would say, probably 7th on back. Matt Taylor has managed to break away from Brian Carey about 1.5 seconds, and the Canadian very much the cork in the bottle. Tyler Groff, Adam Fraser, Justin Weaver, the cars in line. Lionel Callisto, what can you say about the season he's had so far? A rookie in the Indy cars, but he's been so strong. And 8 positions gained on the day. One of our biggest movers, tied with Mike Rasmussen, who's up into 19th position. Other big movers do include the likes of Aaron Morgan, Jason Galvin, and Mike Rigney. All 3 positions gained for them as they come in through turn number 11, making their way onto this long run that will take you across the start-finish line and down in towards turn number 1. Justin Weaver, I think, is right in the draft of Adam Fraser here, Justin.
And going to take that peek, in fact, to the left side to try and get the slipstream to work. He's going to pick up that draft 2 off the cars in front. So very well timed. Bit of side-by-side in front of them as well.
That's Tyler Groff trying to use the button to get on past the Canadian on the black mark tires. He does so down in towards turn number 1. And now Tyler Groff up into the top 8. You did see Weaver make the move as well, and Fraser not just passed by Weaver, but by Callisto as well. So that charge from the 97 continues almost up into the top 10, already on lap number 9 here. So these laps really are flying on by, and I wonder here, Lorenzo, if anyone is going to try something slightly different. We talked about the black mark tires maybe not working in the long run. You want to get off of them as quickly as possible. What will the likes of Matt Taylor and Brian Carey do here?
Streaky, because they're going to be only effective more than the red Brent tires, probably in the final 5 laps of the stint, where you can actually pick up the car, be more comfortable with it and run faster laps. But then you reach the end of your fuel range, because estimated lap stints are about 19 laps strong that your fuel range will go. So it's complicated, We've been talking about minimized damage, time damage, so that's pretty much the objective A, B, and C for them right now.
And something that you had picked up on, Callisto has already burned through half of his push-to-passes. So being aggressive in the early stages of this race, and now you can see on that left-hand side of your screen the number of usages left. Unlike in the real world where it's a time-based system, you get between 120 or 150 seconds depending on which track that we are in. Here it is 10 usages of the button. It gives you about 60 extra horsepower, just pushes you down that straight, gives you that opportunity to make stuff happen. Brian Beard is only left with 4 as well, so see an interesting trend here. The cars at front, they're looking very comfortable, only 1 used from Blocker and Harrington, but for someone like Callisto, Justin, it's going to be increasingly difficult as we get into the later stages of this race to continue this momentum, and it's not just push to pass, it's push to defend as well.
And that's what I was about to get to as well, is it's going to hurt his chances to defend all the positions he's picked up later on in this race, and he's obviously thought that I didn't qualify well. I've performed well in the past on the road courses. He did well at Long Beach as well as at Mid-Ohio. So he took the risk of saying, you know what, I want to try and utilize these push to passes to get some of the track position and then worry about it later, try and break some draft, and that's now to where it's going to be difficult later on as, my goodness, what a send.
I think Tyler Graf saw that one coming. Is there going to be contact? Yes, there is. Graf makes contact with Callisto. Does the charge from the 97 come to an end? He will drop out of the top 10, but by some sort of miracle, he hangs on to that car. No major damage, at least visually, as he still is side by side with Adam Fraser coming in towards turn number 6. It will switch back to the inside as we work our way onto this back straightaway. But that was an interesting one, and we will go straight to the RaceSpot TV replay machine as soon as these guys get themselves in order, because look behind them as well here, Justin. Look at Jason Brophy.
Well, and Brophy seeing an opportunity to try and charge up here, and keep in mind this is going to be difficult for some of these drivers to get on through here. All of these drivers lined up astern as a result here, just all draft locked as a result of that checkup, but this has opened up the opportunity for several drivers to say, you know what, I'm going to use the push to pass to try and make some moves here. A couple of the drivers already struggling as a result of some of that contact.
That was Larkamp getting past Weaver, and we will get to the replay. We're just going to stay with the live pictures until these guys all calm themselves down. You got that wonderful aerial look at that draft training that these guys have been building. Ryan Otis looks to the inside of Brophy. Nothing doing there is in front of him. You can see still side by side it's Adam Fraser and Chris Fowler as we work our way in through turn number 3. They will form themselves back once more, and I think it's the perfect opportunity to potentially take a look at the RaceSpot TV replay then. So let's go take a look at this incident down in towards turn number 1. It was a very late move from Justin Weaver. Tyler Graf did the right thing, just jinking out of the way, but it all ended in tears, I think, for him. He's dropped all the way down the timing screen. Lots of damage to the 26 car, Justin.
Yeah, he's already made his way down to the pit lane. As soon as I seen that send, I knew there was no way that was going to stick, because that was extremely optimistic to try and go for the 2 positions. He had the 1 position in hand fairly simply if he elected just to take that. But with that push to pass, he had utilized that lap. He just said, I think this is my opportunity to try and move on forward, and unfortunately, as you said, it ends in tears for a couple drivers. Callisto going to be a bit lucky here with some of this bit of contact here, trying to dodge all of this.
And so Tyler Graf is rolling himself off of pit road after spending 22 seconds stationary. So Callisto will be thrilled that no major damage there, as you can see now up into 9th position. So let's rejoin these live pictures and see exactly what's happening. Looks like Justin Weaver might be struggling here at this point, as Matt Taylor down onto pit road, Justin.
So he's elected to get off those tires as quick as possible, and you were just talking about this a little while ago. Some of these drivers may want to get off the blacks as quick as possible, and it looks like he's elected to go for the undercut strategy. This is around the early mark of where the fuel projections were for today, between laps 10 and 19 for our first pit stop window. So he's now going to be on the reds and going to have to be on full defensive mode at the end of the life of these tire stints the rest of the way.
They're only 6 laps away from the race leaders coming in as well, so getting towards that time when pit road will be a very busy place, and getting onto pit road is not the easiest thing here because it is a high-speed entry and you want to make sure. Ooh, Samuel Ryman off the track in the gravel. Not sure exactly where he is. I believe this is turn 4 and 5. He has to watch in his rearview mirrors because the race leader is about to come through. There's Blocker. There's Harrington and Chin, the private label teammates. No major drama there. Ryman lets them through. Speaking of this leading group, look at how Chin has closed on the back of his teammate here, Justin. And Connor Harrington, 1.5 seconds behind Adam Blocker.
Yeah, I noticed that Blocker is more efficiently getting his way through the infield section, so to speak, of the racetrack, through the road course portion here at Indianapolis, while Harrington has been more efficient in the run from turns 12 and 13 all the way down into turn 1 for this road course layout. The tough thing is for Chin, he is currently gaining about a tenth a lap, yes, but the main thing's going to be trying to find a way to get up to someone like Blocker, because Chin, we know, is also very strong on the road courses. There's a reason he came away with the victory at Mid-Ohio. He's showing that speed here. It's just a matter of looking for the right opportunity. I think he's got one.
Down the inside makes it look very easy. And the king of Chins now 1.7 seconds, 2 seconds back, excuse me. There's that time shoots up as he just lost a bit of time as he tried to get down the inside of his teammate. Now sets to the task at hand, chasing down the Lionheart King out front. For Adam Blocker, well, what can you say? Easy come, easy go. Only 2 laps led at this track in 2 previous attempts at this race. And as we head in towards the pit stop window, looking very comfortable. Slightly further back, not so comfortable, is Henry Bennett Lorenzo with Aaron Morgan all over his rear wing.
And again, Morgan with a very good outing, you know, in these road courses. We saw him in Mid-Ohio, I think, last season, so he was doing really good in there, and that's why it's not surprising for me to see that number 48 car being very strong and putting the British all over, you know, his rear wing and keeping him very honest. But then again, I think Morgan, for now, is not playing aggressive. He has 9 push to passes, so he's saving that for the end, apparently. Doing good so far on those red brands.
I tell you what, one of our great new additions to our RaceSpot TV graphics is this new track map. A shout out to ATVO, Nick Thyssen, Simon Grossman, and Kevin Niatola for all of their hard work, not just on the push to pass. I love seeing our tower light up when drivers get on the button and just try and urge their car down the straightaways that much more. But you see, Adam Blocker will be coming up on some more lap traffic in not too much time. Bennett very loose in through turn number 4, and Morgan closes that gap even further. I love, though, Justin, that you can see that that group of cars. It's still not separated out, and I tell you what, if we go take a look at 10th position on back, once more using this wonderful aerial shot, you'll see just how close these cars are.
Yeah, right now, that whole chunk of cars that's in the middle of the snaking section of the racetrack, that's all about 4 seconds right now. It's incredible how tight they're all running, but they're all draft locked, which is the tough part, where many of them may have used their push to passes earlier on in this run, so that's going to cost them a little bit later on in their chances for this type of train. But it's also the time where you can just settle on in, try and save your equipment, try and save your fuel in particular, try and make sure you get that 2-stop window we got projected. Make sure you're good to go and think big picture about the race. Just be patient, as several drivers, it looks like, are going to make their way a little bit more tighter on their apex into the lane.
And this is that pit entry. Look at Chris Fowler. Oh, has he sped there? A puff of smoke as he locked up. And I wonder if the number 20 car will be in trouble. He's followed in by Adam Fraser. These are the first takers down onto pit road from this leading group. Other cars have come down, including the Adrenaline Motorsports teammates Tony Schowen and Chris Stouffer. But now, this is the important stops. Undercut on the cards. Fowler into the box very smoothly. Up on the jacks. 4 fresh Firestone tires. He's staying on the red mark tire as well. Drops down, gets the fuel, and 9 seconds later rolls himself off. Adam Fraser does the same as well. I tell you what, Justin, Fowler will be thrilled that he didn't incur a penalty there on pit road.
Yeah, that was really pushing to the limit, but that's where a lot of practice comes into play. We've talked about this a few times, where drivers will practice that entry to make sure they can hit their marks precisely. But more stops coming in, I believe, Arjuna. Joshua Chin has elected to come in on the undercut.
Very interesting. Joshua Chin, also known as the King of Chins, is a master of fuel saving, and I've competed against him in many an endurance race where he'll suddenly magic a stint with 3, maybe 4 laps extra than what you can do, and you're fuel saving as well. So to see him come in a bit earlier than Harrington is a bit surprising, but maybe just indicates the strategy that he is playing here. Into the box he goes. He's got a wonderful pit stall as well. Up he goes, down he goes. 9 seconds once more. 8.4 for the 93 car. He will roll himself out into a little bit of traffic, and he'll be hoping that this undercut works out exactly how he wants. And of course now on the black mark tires, Justin, what will the 93 car be able to do in trying to build up the temperature and build up the speed as well?
That's going to be the tough thing. We talked about it with the fresh tires early on in this race. The difference was up to at least 0.4 a lap. So this is going to be where it's going to be also critical. Keep in mind that the track temperature is starting to pick up now for some of these competitors as a result of the cars running on the racetrack and the sun beating down on the circuit, even through to the clouds right now. One big cloud, that can all change things though.
More pit stops. Blocker, Harrington, Bennett is in. Morgan will get a point for leading a lap then as he goes the longest of the cars in the top 5. Important stops for these cars. No mistakes can be afforded to make, and I wonder now what tires they will elect to pick for this middle stint of the race. Blocker is in, Harrington is in, Bennett is in. Reds for Blocker, reds for Harrington, reds for Bennett as well. So no changes there. And as Joshua Chin blasts his way down the start-finish straight, just out of shot, there you can see the purple just coming in. Harrington will beat his teammate out here, Justin.
And here's the tough part. It's going to cost Chin some time. So I think at the very least, Chin's thought process might be to charge on the later part of this race, on the last stint of the race, and maybe just get the blacks over with right now. The thing is, when it comes to the other drivers, it seems is they're willing to take the risk of taking the blacks at the last stint of the race, save them as long as they can for when the track gets a little bit more warmer at the moment.
Morgan down onto pit road then. As you can see, Adam Blocker is stuck behind Ricky Harding. And as we work our way in through turn 10 towards 11, Adam Blocker tries to find whatever he can to just build up some gap and put that buffer back to 2+ seconds. The private label teammates. There he goes, and now we should see Ricky Harding down onto pit road as well. Adam Blocker will re-inherit the race lead here. 20 laps are in the books. In fact, Andrew Kinsella, the Canadian, will lead a lap as well. So bonus points, Justin. I mean, in a long championship like this, it is very undervalued just how important accumulating points over the course of 22 races can be.
Especially for your team as well. We've seen how tight the team championship has been so far with some of the battles going on for that side of the bracket. So that's where I think a lot of that's coming into play now for some of these competitors.
Ooh, that's a spin for Scott Holmes. I believe that's coming in through turn 2 and 3. Just lights up the rear end of the car, and around she goes in the Sector 5 car. Here's Joe Branch in the Coca-Cola car. This is coming in through turn 5, or 6 I would have to assume. Just runs a bit wide, understeer City there for Branch. Managed to get himself back onto track. About 7 seconds lost there. We'll jump back to live pictures and see now Adam Blocker is building up his advantage once more. In fact, no. Lorenzo through the pit stop cycle. Connor Harrington is now 1 second behind once more and on the button, trying to close the gap.
On the button, about nearly actually on the second because he's coming down bit by bit because he's on the start-finish line. But the thing is, Connor actually got a little bit of a benefit with that issue that a Blocker had on the previous lap, Ricky Harding, which his gap was about 2 seconds. It decreased for about 1.5 seconds, and then Harrington just did the rest of the job. Now Blocker on the pressure.
I'm seeing a number of cars have been off track recently. Matt Houston, the most recent of them. So I tell you what, with a number of cars getting on the button, let's quickly go spool up a couple more incidents here from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And for Lionel Kalisto, sideways in through turn number 8. Just about able to hang on to that, as I think side by side it was Adam Fraser with Chris Fowler, as Kalisto now down in 14th. Once more will have to charge his way through the field, but without the benefit of many of the push-to-passes that he's already used. Same corner, slightly different issue there for Mike Razmas, who locks up the inside front and goes for a bit of a rally cross adventure there. And Jason Brophy will not be thrilled, I think, with the manner that Mike Razmas rejoined the track. Let's check out what happened then to Matt Houston. And this is in through turn 10, the left-hand 90 degree, just not able to get the car turned in and rotated. Finds himself then in 18th position. One more incident as well here with Ricky Harding. And this one's down in towards turn number 1 here, Justin.
Now, many drivers having some issues. Of course, with that complex in Sector 2, with the quickness of the 90-degree, it's so easy to happen. That part of the racetrack, we've seen how easy it was to happen to just lose the back end if you take a little bit too much speed. Whoa!
Up and over and over. He's still going and still flipping. Debris going everywhere. Lionel Kalisto is down on pit road. The charge has come to an end. Here is the replay. It's behind the Canadian Andrew Kinsella. He just looks for the move that wasn't necessarily there. Unable to get onto the anchors in time. And well, what can you say about that, Lorenzo, other than self-inflicted?
Oh, Harrington spun around. I was actually going to commentate this, but Harrington just spun around, Arjun. I'm so sorry. I was paying attention to this.
We will take a look at that one in a second, Lorenzo. Just give me a second here, and we will go ahead and take a look at that one. Harrington, in fact, is still very, very slow. Let's go and pick up the live pictures here. There's damage on the left rear of his car. Oh, no, for Harrington. These are major championship implications, Lorenzo.
Yeah, this is so complicated. I think that was Tony Schowen on the inside on corner entry on turn number 8, and that is so unfortunate. Harrington wanted every single point coming to the 500, and that's gonna be in shambles because he's between the championship.
Oh, there it is with Schowen. That's going to be something Race Control has to take a look at. We will have to take one more look at this, Justin, and spool it back even further if we can.
And I think Tony Schowen was just trying to let by the leaders here, but at the same time, take a look at the corner itself once he lets him on by. He's going to the middle of the corner. Schowen takes it a little bit too wide in the first place there while trying to let by the race leaders. I don't know what to really say there. Just absolutely incredible there, where Harrington's expecting him to still back up the corner a little bit more possibly. And then you have Tony Schowen, who doesn't turn until midway through the apex, just about.
And he's still crawling, trying to get that car back to pit road. And at the end of the day, Lorenzo, you know that even though Schowen is on Adrenaline Motorsports, there was no intent to cause that. He was trying to stay out of the way, and he just misjudged it, made a horrific mistake. And at the end of the day, it's really Harrington that pays the price.
Yeah, and by the way, Race Control just giving the driver 31, Tony Schowen, that drive-through penalty. Well, it was expected, by the way, but that was totally unintentional. He even apologized on radio after that because you can see, I think there was just a little bit of a confusion coming in from Tony Schowen, and let Adam Blocker by, and he's right on the apex. So it's those split decisions, and unfortunate for Carter Harrington to be on the other end.
And that has turned this race on its head. It's now a battle between Adam Blocker and Joshua Chin, and it's going to come down to the strategy with the tires. Heartbreak for the defending race winner, Connor Harrington, but halfway through this race, oh boy, Justin, if this is what the Brickyard has in store for us, not just today, but in 2 weeks' time as well, who knows what this Indy 500 will look like in a couple of weekends' time.
Yeah, this is absolutely incredible now because you have Chin on the blacks, remember, Blocker on the reds, so Blocker's got the opportunity to grow the distance. Chin's going to have to be extremely aggressive to close up the gap. He's losing 0.8 of a second a lap right now. Before that incident, keep in mind, Harrington was starting to close on in to Blocker by a couple car lengths per lap. So Blocker is starting to, as in the middle stages of this race, move on, lose a bit of time compared to before when it was a bit more cooler track temperatures. So the main thing is going to be, can Chin close up the gap on his final stint? Is going to be the biggest question mark now with this race.
Ducking and diving, that's Chris Fowler looking in his rearview mirrors as Fraser pops his way to the outside line, side by side in towards turn number 1. The black car, has the inside for the next corner, and it's red versus black tires, but Fowler does a wonderful job to hold on there, and now his teammate Larkamp looks to the inside. Oh, that was a risky move. Opens the door for Ryan Otis to try and sling his way on past. It's calmed down out front. It is not calmed down in the mid-pack here. Fraser almost runs over Fowler, Justin.
And some of these drivers actually missing a bit of their braking marks, trying to keep off one another at the moment. Keep in mind, as you see the onboard now for Andrew Kinsella, lead right here, just waiting for the opportunity to poke around. We've seen how dangerous that section of the racetrack can be because I was going to mention before when it came to some of the mistakes in this complex of the racetrack here. With the 90-degree corner in particular, it can catch up to you and bite you very quickly because of the speed you're carrying, first of all, in towards the lead up to that section, but two, just how little runoff section there is other than the grass. So it's very easy to make mistakes. That time, that's how I got the better run.
And using the draft from Larkamp in front, gets on past the Lionheart Retro Series champion, now looks to the inside of the 62, deep under the brakes, and forces Larkamp to concede on those black mark tires. Otis will follow him around the outside. Wonderful opportunistic pass from the 95 car. Slinks his way up into the top 10, and you see the left-hand side of the screen right now is those tire compounds. Let's switch it to the positions gained as well, because look here, Lorenzo, at some of these movers and shakers.
Yeah, let's look at Mike Rasmus. What a performance he's having so far. Going from P27 all the way down to the back, second to last, now P14. Then we got a Fowler with 7 positions gained. There is one other driver with some good positions. That is Jason Galvin on P17. Having a good race so far.
It's been a thrilling one so far, and I tell you what, if series organizers are thinking about if they want to return here and make it a fixture and a staple of this series, it really has produced some drama, not just today, but 12 months ago as well. Tyler Groff has reset down onto pit road and taken the tow. I think day done for a driver that was looking extremely strong in the early stages of this race. Let's take a look at this racespottv replay. Just lights up the rear end of the car coming around through turn 4, and I think realizes already 1 lap down. Nothing left to fight for here today. There is still a fight for 3rd place. And it's Matt Taylor who's been oh so impressive. Not just in the IndyCar, but in Speedway and retro competition as well. Chasing down a driver who has struggled a bit more than I thought he would here today, over the course of the season, I should say, Justin, because Henry Bennett, a multi-time iRacing IndyCar Open champion, has not had the type of consistency and strong dominating runs that you might think you'd get from this British driver.
I was expecting a lot more on the road courses in particular. He struggled a little bit on the ovals this season, but road courses, I've seen him dominate in many different cases in some series. Yes, he's got himself a couple top 5s in the season, but I was expecting him to be in contention for the race wins in a lot of different cases. For him, it's been a struggle just for the top 8. Remember Long Beach? That was a fight for him back in that race. Watkins Glen, 9th position. Mid-Ohio was where he finally broke through on a road course for a top 5. It's just not been the season we were expecting, absolutely, from a driver who has been able to show great discipline and great speed on the road courses. He just hasn't been able to nail the strategy, I think, as well as nail the pace that we would expect from Bennett.
Going through some equipment upgrades as well, so I think maybe just feeling his way through those as well. Oh, Joshua Chin! Joshua Chin! What is happening to private label team hype here? These are major championship implications. No damage for Chin. Oh, but for Galvin, a previous race winner, he's around in turn number 2, Justin.
Everything's all kicking off now all of a sudden at 2 different parts of the racetrack for Chin. I think it's a section where it's, once again, the same complex we were talking about. Turn 8 and 9, where it's so easy to spin out if you don't hit it the right way. And the way he hit the corner was he clipped the grass going through part of the apex. That was enough to set him off to spin on the corner exit in turn. That now may cost him a lot of opportunities, if not full chances, to get up the blocker. Now when it comes to the air spin, not quite sure what happened to Jason Galvin in the air end of the racetrack. I think this is it right here where Galvin just makes a bit of side pod contact, and I believe that was one of your race contenders for the top 5, Morgan.
Well, Morgan, actually, we hadn't mentioned it, Justin. He'd slipped down the order as a result of something that had happened to him. A 50-second spent on pit road, but he will not be too happy with that one. Looks like Galvin just misses the inside of the corner. There's a car that goes for a little bit of an airborne trip there, able to get on through with no major damage. Back to live pictures, and let's see if we can pick up the gap between Bennett and Chin. It is only now 3 seconds, and, well, Lorenzo, Adam Blocker, 12 seconds clear with just 18 laps to go.
Yeah, 18 laps to go. He can manage now. He can even grab a cup of coffee or something like that and be okay with it. But then again, I think this race has a little bit of everything that we probably weren't expecting.
Yep, it's got a bit more here as well, Lorenzo. Sorry to cut you off. That is Stefan Larkamp and I think Justin Weaver that have tangled coming in through 8, 9, 10 as well. It definitely looks like it might be the tricky spot. Take a look at this replay, Lorenzo.
Let's take a look at the replay as they go into the turn number 7, 8, or 9. Oh, it looked like he's missed. The car just stepped out on its rear. Oh, came back on track quite dangerously and affected the other driver going off track and then clustered everything. I've been seeing a lot of drivers spinning on practice on that specific center, so for that custom setup, it's not been the easiest one for you to tackle.
Well, Joshua Chin has shed, not sure exactly what the right grammar is there, but no longer on the black mark tire. He is on the red and will take this to the end of the race. So the pit window is now open. Don't necessarily think, though, Justin, we're expecting the likes of Blocker in the next few laps.
Yeah, Blocker, if he wants, can try and stretch it for another 7 laps to try and minimize the amount of time on the blacks, and that's the key thing we were talking about before. Is trying to minimize the amount of time you spend on the alternate compound for tonight. The tough thing is now when it comes to Chin, though, is before it was a bit manageable, 4.5, 5 seconds back. Now, with it being 11 seconds plus after that spin off in the grass, it's not going to be easy whatsoever to get up to Blocker. It's going to take a lot of luck to close on up.
You are watching coverage of the Lionheart IndyCar Series on racespottv and ESTV. Don't go anywhere. More coverage of the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis right after these messages from our partners. Welcome back to RaceSpot.tv and coverage of the Lionheart IndyCar Series and the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis. The month of June for Lionheart competition is well and truly heating up, and what a race it's been so far here today. My name is Arjuna Kankipati. Alongside for today's action is Justin Prince and Lorenzo Bonder. And Justin, only about 15 laps to go here, but what a wild ride it's been so far today.
Absolutely. We've had championship contenders involved in trouble. Others spinning off into the grass. Others having issues trying to get their way either through the pit lane or, in some cases, through some of said traffic. And in turn, It's led to Adam Blocker being in control of his own destiny. A 21-second lead over Brian Beard with multiple different drivers on several different strategies. He's going for the blacks, it looks like, at the end of this race to close things out. Joshua Chin, for reference sakes, 42 seconds behind after his spin.
Well, Justin, this is crucial. Pit road time is anywhere between 39 and 44 seconds, depending on how much fuel you need to put into that car. If Blocker needed a full tank of fuel, the gap would only be 4 seconds. But Blocker is not going to need a full tank of fuel. And by the time he comes down onto pit road and gets those black mark tires, it's going to be crucial to get those tires up to temperature and pressure to make sure he doesn't give Joshua Chin the opportunity of victory today.
That's going to be very critical, but I think Blocker is making his way right now, Arjuna, towards the lane. 14 laps to close out his stint on fuel. So going to be able to take about 5 laps less in the tank. Remember, the furthest we've seen today is 20 laps in the tank.
Pole sitter has never won at this track, and I tell you what, 12 months ago, Sage Karam, heartbreak for him, a contact with a lapped car. And then a drama with him and Blocker with 2 laps to go. Drama with Harrington and Karam with 1 lap to go. Harrington only led 1 lap, but it was the lap that everyone wants to lead. Coming to the checkered flag. Blocker into his box as Joshua Chin is on the push to pass. Watch for the pit box time here, 7.5 seconds. He is side by side with his teammate Joe Branch, who is going to have to let him go here because there comes Joshua Chin, Lorenzo, down the back straightaway.
And down the back straightaway, but it's quite lengths from Adam Blocker. I think it is right about 6 seconds that he has on Adam Blocker. So the private label Team Hype is going to have some work to try to get within the Adrenaline Motorsports Adrenaline Power Slide driver. And the problem for Chin is he has 5 laps on his stint, whereas Blocker is just on his out lap.
But of course, red versus black now, so I mean, let's see what the difference is going to be in terms of pace. Chin did drop off very slightly through that middle portion of the race. So pit stops very much underway here. Only a couple of cars still left to come down onto the lane. Beard, Weaver, Morgan, and Rigney, those cars. As we're watching this battle with Justin Weaver, who's just gone and passed by Joshua Chin. And now Brian Beard down onto pit road, so Adam Blocker will re-inherit the race lead. 6 seconds is the gap, as we've got 13 laps to go as Blocker comes across the start-finish line once more, and those yard of bricks. Let's talk a little bit about the teams championships, Justin, and what the implications of today really are going to be, because Bennett's in 5th, Kinsella's in 10th, and Brian Carey's in 9th. So for Adrenaline Motorsports Red, it's a nice consistent run. For private label Team Hype, Chin's in 2nd, but then Jason Brophy is down in 17th position. Connor Harrington, the best he will finish is 23rd today.
And it's been talked about a little bit where sometimes the road courses, it's about minimizing the damage for some teams. And for private label Team Hype, remember we were talking about this, Arjuna, where private label Team Hype were in a solid position to be able to get good points. Until the disaster struck for Harrington. Now, it completely flips things upside down, and we may see them even tighter now going into the 500-mile race here at Indianapolis. So it's going to have major implications, that one incident with Harrington, for potentially the next few weeks at minimum for those respective teams. Remember, those drivers very strong for both those organizations too at a track such as this.
Left side of the screen, you can see the push-to-pass usages left for the drivers. A couple of them have burned through all 10 allotments, the likes of Beard, Fowler, and Fraser. But you can see as Justin Weaver down onto pits, that promotes Bennett and Taylor up into 3rd and 4th respectively. Bennett has a couple of extra usages to defend. It's not just push to pass. We mentioned it earlier. It's push to defend as well. Lorenzo, you found an interesting stat based on the season so far. Sage Karam and Adam Blocker both have 2 victories on the season. Galvin, Harrington, and Chin with 1 apiece. If Blocker can hold on for the next 12 laps, he will head to victory lane for the 3rd time this season.
Not only for the 3rd time in the season, that would make him also the only back-to-back winner in the Lionheart IndyCar Series. We were talking, me and Justin, we were talking about like back-to-back and multiple winners. We didn't have that on Speedway. We actually got that on the Speedway with Robert Malechka, and also back-to-back and multiple time winner. So it's going to be interesting to see Blocker now standing at the top of the winner standings.
Look at Larkamp trying to hound the back of Fraser on the black mark tire now. So Fraser is having to defend for all his worth. Already dropped out of the top 10 where he did qualify. It's been a race with some big movers and shakers, and we can show you them on the left-hand side of the screen here, Justin.
Yeah, still some impressive drives from drivers like Rasmus, of course, but I'm noticing someone in the top 10, Ryan Otis in particular, has moved up inside the top 10. Right in front of this group, he's trying to break the draft of these two, in fact. So it's been an impressive job by Otis, who is known to be very strong on the road courses as well. Watkins Glen is his bread and butter, keep in mind, so it's going to be intriguing how this all plays out as here comes the move from Larkamp.
Red tires give you a bit more grip, but Fraser full of confidence knowing 11 laps to go. He just has to hang on, nothing doing for now, but I have a feeling this battle will continue to intensify. Justin, got a question for you here. We were talking about the Speedway Series there. Factory back to being very strong there. What do you think about this Lionheart competition? It's 3 different, series that we've got. It's such a fun thing for us to come and do every single week.
It's absolutely incredible to see the diversity from some of the drivers, first of all. To be able to drive in 3 different types of cars in the 3 sanctioned series, with the Retro Series utilizing Lotus 79s, the Dallara DW12 utilized for the Speedway Series, and of course the IR18 utilized for the IndyCar Series. It takes a lot of discipline to be able to drive those different cars because they take different styles. No in-car tools in the DW12, for example. You do have that option with the IR18 to be able to adapt it to the various conditions and the situations, such as, say, a battle for position lap. It's a lot of foot and driving power to be able to utilize the way you drive around the racetrack and to be able to wheel it and be able to properly make moves. It's all so very critical for drivers to be able to have that different balance of diversity when it comes to the driving styles here for this Lionheart competition, because if you want to be able to compete in Lionheart, you need to be able to, as in want to be a champion in all 3 series, you need to be able to have that adaptability on the tracks and the cars.
Apologies for the technical issues. We unfortunately have to rejoin the iRacing session. We will get in as quickly as we can to catch the closing laps here in round 8 of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis. Lorenzo, quickly over to you here. Who's been a shining star for you in this race so far?
Kinsella, P17, then going to P7. We thought about Kinsella having a little bit of issues at the start of the racing, and then initially I thought, all right, this might be another of those races where Kinsella might struggle, but nevertheless, actually top 10 result for him, and this is one of the top 10s that I think he desperately needs.
Not just for his confidence, but for his team as well in those team standings. Of course, for Harrington, such a disappointing day, and I hope that maybe we will get the opportunity to talk to him at the end of this race, because I'm sure he will be bitterly disappointed as to what happened there. We are back into the race session now, so excuse me for those technical issues. We will get our graphics up and running as well in just a few seconds time. In terms of on-track action though, Justin, it is still an 8-second advantage for the King of Chins.
Yeah, and if anything, it's starting to go back Blocker's direction despite some of the traffic in terms of the times, because Chin is now starting to really struggle with the tires a little bit now with the life of them. The clouds, though, are going to play a bit of a factor, I think, with these track temperatures. It's half a second faster, in fact, between Blocker and Chin in particular. So right now, this is going right into Blocker's direction, and this is exactly what I was fearing. The mistakes from Chin earlier in the race cost him a lot of time to be able to try and pounce on Blocker. He needed this to be the opposite way. Chin needed to close in half a second compared to Blocker to be able to have a shot.
And you can see them all on the button as well, just trying to push themselves forward and take what they can in the closing stages. Fastest lap it's possible to happen here in the last couple of laps. That's what happened to yours truly with all of the chaos 12 months ago. I'm very glad that we are going to catch the final couple of laps here today, because it's not necessarily action out front, but there is some interesting battles. Now, you were talking about Andrew Kinsella here, Lorenzo. He's up then into 7th position.
Yeah, because Chris Fowler is not far behind, about a half a second behind on the number 41 car, and he's working his best. But the problem with Fowler is he has no more push to pass left, and Kinsella already using his surge to last, push to pass to left.
Such an interesting track, and I tell you what, let's kind of talk about it as well, because this is not the layout, Justin, that people will be familiar with from watching trackside action on NBC over the month of May. It's especially here, you come right into this double hairpin section. It's difficult, and it's not just here, but towards the end of the track as well. iRacing have said that they are efforting to get a team out to Indianapolis, of course affected by the coronavirus situation just like everyone else. But when we get a rescan of this wonderful facility, we'll get that new GP layout as well.
And I can't wait to be able to get my hands on the GP layout, the update GP layout, once that becomes fruition as well. Think about it this way too, there's been a lot of updates to the Bagola, for example, with the renovations, with the ownership group change here at this racetrack as well. That's brought a lot of beautiful renovations. A big Jumbotron, for example, in the infield for the paddock along Gasoline Alley, for example. It's incredible the work that's been put in at this facility over the past year or so to renovate and add more amenities to this track.
It really is such a wonderful venue. Side by side, we see Fraser and Weaver. Weaver, of course, with some damage, trying to bounce back from that contact with Graf, if I'm remembering correctly. 6 laps to go, he's at least back up into the top 10 position. This facility, of course, had the distinct honor of, over the month of May, hosting, they said 135,000 people. It definitely looks like a little bit more watching on from the TV. The largest gathering of sporting fans since the pandemic started for Aaron Morgan. His torrid run of luck continues. We are still not exactly sure why the 48 car spent so much time down on pit road with his first stop, but this time he spins it around through turn number 3. We'll gather up the Priuses and pick up, I'm sure, the next time from Indy. And of course, let's talk a little bit about the 500, Lorenzo. It is not just a regular race, just like we do in the real world. We have a special qualifying day, 4 lap averages, and that will be 1 week from tonight.
Yeah, 1 week from tonight, the race for the pole, the hyperx race for the pole. I can't wait to see it because it will be a blast to see it. And but then again, the 500 is an event of its own. Everybody cares about the 500. It's probably, for these guys, the most special event of the year, the most important event of the year in the Lionheart Series. The first of the Triple Crown, right? And you really want to get your footing into the first event of the Triple Crown, get that win, and then get the recognition.
It is the first event of the Triple Crown, and if I'm remembering correctly, it also means double points on offer.
Yep.
That is going to be crucial, and that's why we were talking about momentum so many times here today. That is, without a doubt, one of the most crucial things drivers will be focused on. 4 laps to go, so just over 8 kilometers, about 9 kilometers for Adam Blocker. Didn't lead every single lap, but has definitely controlled this race from start to finish. And like you said, Lorenzo, he will become the first driver to win 3 races this season. And he didn't start his championship defense last year in the best of forms as Morgan slips on past Mike Rigney. But this season, it's been so much more consistent despite his real-world commitments with the IndyCar paddock as well. The month of May, he was not racing from home. He had to find other simulators to race on. Still able to build up this championship advantage, and with the struggles of Harrington today, that gap will extend.
It's insane, right? It's insane how Blocker managed to pull that off while still being in Indianapolis, but that proves why he's one of the premier drivers of the IndyCar Series, not just in United States, but in general all over the world, and proves how good he is. And you were talking about pole sitters. I was talking about pole sitters and never winning, right? That didn't happen in the Speedway Series. It happened with Malecka. It might happen again now with Blocker.
Confirmation from race control, by the way. Oh, that's a spin for Chris Fowler in the closing stages. He will lose a position and maybe even a couple more. Can he stay in the top 10? Oh, I'm not exactly sure where he's going to feed out. There's Fraser getting on past, and that looks like 6 positions lost for the 20 car. It was looking like it was going to be a very promising day result for him, and in a season that I think a lot of people have struggled. For Chris Fowler, that was looking like a good run. Here's Weaver now down the inside of the Lionheart Retro Series champion. Both these cars on the black mark tires. And as they work side by side, Otis says, you know what? I don't want any part of that, Justin.
Yeah, you know what? I think he thought about that, and it's like, I want to be able to get towards the end of the race, first of all. It's in the closing stages. You want to try and get solid points. For Ryan Otis, it'd be one of his better finishes so far this season and what's been an up and down campaign. But the main thing as well is he's also down to just push to passes. So why not try and get himself in a position where, if it's possible, to try and pounce back with your own push to pass the next time around.
Look at this. Chris Stouffer and Jason Brophy, they are by no means strong on road courses, they will admit by themselves, but they are having a very fun battle. 14th and 15th position. Stouffer drives for Adrenaline Motorsports, but he's in the black team, not necessarily in that championship hunt, at least right now. Stouffer teammates with Joe Branch and Tony Schowen as well. They will look at the second half of the season potentially as the one to focus on, as we'll look at these guys coming down with 2 laps to go. So 2 more opportunities and not many usages of the button left for them either. What I have noticed, by the way, Justin, not sure if you've been noticing this, but Adam Blocker has slowly been using his push to passes. He has not been going that fast. Last time around, a 1:13.226.
I think maybe just being a little bit conservative. Remember, had the opportunity to light fuel the car, 7.6 second stop, but as Blocker makes his way down the front straightaway, that's going to be where I think he's got a sizable enough gap to where he can probably let it coast down the front straightaway at this point. With how big the distance is, 8 seconds the gap between him and Chin, and keep in mind, Chin had a quicker pit stop and has been trying to stretch it on an 18-second stint, or 18-lap stint.
We did, of course, see Chin spin his way through turn 9 and 10. Self-inflicted, extended that gap just that little bit more. While we wait for Blocker to come across the checkered flag to head his way into HyperX victory lane, look at his teammate, Brian Carey, the Canadian, almost contact with Brian Beard, a side-by-side. They work in through turn number 1, and these are vital points, not just in the Drivers' Championship, but in the team standings as well for Powerslide and Adrenaline in that red organization, 3rd, 6th, and 7th. That is the most consistent they have been so far this season. But look out front. It's their teammate, Adam Blocker. It's been a difficult start in terms of managing his schedule and his commitments. Real-world commitments with Ilmore. He was here trackside for the month of May. He wins the -273 Grand Prix of Indianapolis and extends his championship advantage. It will be 2nd place for Joshua Chin, the private label Team Hype machine, unable to capitalize on a wonderful qualifying result for them. Henry Bennett across the line in 3rd. We wait and see if there's anything to come for Brian Beard versus Brian Carey. Looks like just a little bit too little, too late. Brian Beard, a very impressive top 5 finish for him, gaining a number of positions from his qualifying spot. Carey will settle for 6th. With his teammate, the Canadian Andrew Kinsella, in 7th. What a fascinating race it was, Justin. But at the end of the day, the Lionheart King still reigns supreme.
A very dominant performance today. Definitely at the pace, especially in the technical corners of the racetrack today. But in the end, he was able to also get the luck on his side. With some of his competitors having their troubles, he was able to build up the gap, break away from the draft, be able to settle on in for the checker flag this evening.
That was Mike Rasmussen and Adam Fraser, by the way. The gap between them for 12th and 13th position, 6/100ths of a second at the line. That is what the Brickyard can deliver, and we're on the road configuration, not just of the track, but of the cars as well. We'll return in a couple of weeks, strip off the downforce, and head down in towards turn 1 with speed in excess of 220 miles an hour, with double points on the line, and history if you can win the Lionheart Indy 500. All the cars are across the line, so let's go ahead and take a look at our race results here from the Brickyard. The Carnox race results, it's Adam Blocker once more into HyperX victory lane. 8.5 seconds back is the King of Chins. A late race spin might have compromised his chances of a late race charge. Henry Bennett, I believe that's his first podium in Lionheart competition. He'll be thrilled, but who knows, he might have had even more to offer, 19 seconds behind his teammate. Matt Taylor will be thrilled with a 4th place finish, as will Brian Beard, rounding out the top 5. Brian Carey and Andrew Kinsella, the Canadians representing Adrenaline Motorsports Red, they make 8 significant inroads into the gap that private label Team Hype has. They will be thrilled and confident heading into the Indy 500. Weaver and Otis, teammates for Synergy Motorsports, they're 8th and 9th, with Stefan Larkamp rounding out the top 10. Chris Fowler, Mike Rasmus, Adam Fraser, Jason Brophy, and Chris Stouffer, the 11th through 15th, and the final cars on the lead lap with Aaron Morgan, Mike Rigney, Ricky Harding, Joe Brandt, and Matt Houston rounding out the top 20. Samuel Ryman and Scott Holmes, they get it around 1 lap down before we start to find some of the cars that struggled here today. Tyler Groff, Connor Harrington, of course, contact with Tony Schowen, and I'm sure Harrington must have been apocalyptic when he was in that car. Maybe he's cooled down a little bit, and we'll get to talk to him here in our post-race coverage. Jason Galvin, Lionel Kalisto, Jay Brandt rounds out our 28-car field. You will see fastest lap set by Harrington on lap number 20. Now, ominous signs for the pace that he has for the rest of the season. Let's make our way over then to our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code Lionheart15 for 15% off all orders. He is already standing by, so let's not make him wait. For a winner the 3rd time this season, it is the Lionheart King, Adam Blocker. And Adam dominated that race. I don't necessarily think that you thought it would be as easy as it was in the end.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't going to be easy. I was happy with my Q lap. Not like super happy, but happy enough. I think it could have been beaten, but yeah, it wasn't. So ended up on pole, and yeah, the first stint I felt like I had a little bit better pace than Connor, at least on the start. Played some team games. Unfortunately, Henry was able to get past Josh, so I think that helped. But yeah, then I think Connor was hanging with me, but he was probably burning a couple push to passes to do it, so I wasn't super worried. Started to gap him late at the first stint, and Josh passed him, and I think it was going to be close between Josh and I. Yeah, and then Connor had an incident, and then yeah, Josh I think made a mistake that made it a little bit easier, but I think without that, Josh and I would have been pretty close.
Well, Adam, I was just saying as we were rounding out the results, sorry, I said it earlier in the race as well. Last year, your title defense didn't get off to this type of a start, but it's been consistency for you, despite the fact that you've been so busy with your real-world commitments as well. As we head to the first Triple Crown of the season and the first double points race of the season, how are you feeling in your championship hopes?
I mean, it's Indy. I always feel good about going to Indy. You kind of have to, and yeah, had some good results there in the past, so really just hope to do the same thing. Obviously, it's a really crucial race for the championship, but some results like today kind of make it a little bit easier, take some pressure off. So, yeah, just kind of looking forward to it.
And of course, you'll be heading to Road America for this weekend as the NTT IndyCar Series heads to Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. What are you looking forward to that race? Because that should be thrilling, especially with fans back in attendance.
Yeah, I mean, last weekend was like the first proper race with full fans, and I think this weekend will be the same. And Road America is just one of the best road courses in the world. Great for the IndyCar, and I think there's some exciting things going on in IndyCar. Like really, it's super competitive, and you got Kevin Magnussen coming in, and yeah, I think it's just going to be really good weekend. And Road America is also just really fun area of the country. So
enjoy your trip, Adam, and hopefully we'll see you qualifying well in 7 days' time as we get ready for our first Triple Crown of the season. So that was Adam Blocker, and let's make our way over to the King of Chins, late race mistake, but he's standing by with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed. And first things first, Josh, how are you feeling about your run today? A solid points day and a solid performance.
Yeah, overall a good points day. Still lost my round to Adam, so that kind of sucks. Yeah, the car just didn't work for me on the primary tires at all, and it showed in the whole stint. It was a big struggle, and finally had that little half spin. Cost about 7 seconds, and I think that was ultimately the difference in having a shot at the win and finishing second. I think I probably wouldn't have gotten him even with that time, but it would have been nice to have a shot and see what happened at the end, how it played out. Connor wasn't up there to help duke it out. He got taken out in a pretty silly accident. I don't have words for how dumb it was. It's something in a league like this that is, when you look back at it, it's inexcusable that something like that can happen, and the same driver nearly wrecked a teammate as well. So that ultimately played a pretty big outcome change in how the end of this race played out for the lead, but I guess I can't be too mad about second.
I will ask this about that section of the racetrack. Turns 8 and 9 seem to catch drivers off guard throughout the day. That's where your half spin came. What made that part of the circuit so difficult today?
For me, it was a fairly okay section the whole time until I got on the primary tires. It just, the lateral grip wasn't there, and I didn't have the rear end stability, so I was going through trying to get the car to turn and trying to force it through there to turn, and it finally did turn on me, and it turned too good, and it was just a slow, uncontrolled spin that when you look back at it, you go, oh, well, that's easily preventable, but it's such a slow lead into it that you don't really catch it. I think that's probably what was catching a lot of other guys out in there, especially when they went to the black tires.
Now you're the defending pole sitter for the HyperX Indianapolis 500, and we're now less than 7 days away from HyperX Indianapolis 500 race for the pole. What's your mindset like for this year's running of the HyperX Indianapolis 500?
Gotta go out and get pole, get the bonus points, and just take more points off Adam if I can. Unless he misses more races, it seems like this is his title to lose again. It's one of those seasons where everything goes right for someone, and he's the one on the good end of that.
Josh Chin, second place for Private Label Team Hype, Arjuna.
Great run for him, and you could hear some disappointment in his voice from his mistake. Some frustration as well from the incident between his teammate Harrington and Tony Shaw. And one more interview to get to, and it's Henry Bennett in the 07. Henry, we have been a bit unfair to you, I think, in hindsight, bashing your performance a little bit over the course of the season, but in the greatest way possible. You are such a strong driver, both on the oval and the roads. This is the first race where qualifying and the race really went quite smoothly for you today.
I'm sure the criticism was justified. You're quite a good judge of drivers, so I won't criticise you for that. But yeah, thanks. Seemed to go okay. Considering I didn't feel on pace in practice, yeah, pretty happy to get P3. Yeah, probably should have been P4. Good battle with Matt Taylor, but yeah, went well. I always kind of seem to do well here, so yeah, happy to get the podium.
Well, you said probably should have been P4. Crucially, I think in the team standings, it worked out quite nicely for you. Chin, the only private label car in the top 10, but you guys are 3 of your cars in the top 7. So, I mean, it was a big gap coming into this race. And as we head towards the HyperX Indy 500, where double points are on offer, that championship gap between you and the guys out front will start to come down.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking to put a bit more effort into Lionheart for the second half of the season. You know, try and cut down the other series I'm running in, and try and you know, help the guys out. in adrenaline to get that title, and for me to get that rookie title as well.
Of course, you'll extend your advantage in that rookie championship as well. Heading towards Indy, what do you think it's going to be? Of course, the iRacing Indy 500 was scorching track temperatures and very difficult to pass. With a fixed setup, it will be slightly different. What sort of racing are you expecting in a couple of weeks' time?
It just really depends on the weather. I haven't looked at what settings they've decided, if they have decided. But yeah, I think regardless of the setup, it's going to be difficult to pass. Unless they make the weather quite cool, in which case it'll be a pack race. It's still relatively difficult to pass if you like the third or fourth car back. But yeah, Indy's always fun.
Congratulations on your first Lionheart podium. A bit of history there. My first Lionheart podium, of course, you and I being teammates, for those who don't know, Henry, was at this track as well. So seems like this is a pretty good place for the Adrenaline team. Looking forward to seeing you in action in 7 days' time as we go qualifying for the Indy 500.
Thanks, Arjuna.
So that was Henry Bennett in the 07 car, and it's time to say goodbye here on racespottv. But before we do so, let's take a look at this series schedule. And I want to start with you, Lorenzo, because we'll head to Indianapolis 7 days from today, live on racespottv. People can catch that race for the pole. 4-lap average, just like they do in the real world, all building up to the end of June and at 500 mile of action. How about you, Justin? Why don't you take a look at this?
It's going to be very critical for some of the drivers to carry momentum like Blocker, like Chin, but for others such as Harrington, they're hoping that it's not the sign of things to come when it comes to this racetrack. Because we know, based on what we've seen, it can be difficult to try and battle your way through the pack, yes, in the 500-mile race. But it's also one where qualifying can be so very crucial and exciting to try and set the fastest time, set the fastest average around the racetrack. And that's going to be very entertaining to see in about a week's time, to see who can set the fast time for June the 27th for the 500-mile race, to be able to try and power their way into the record books. That Triple Crown race is going to be also very exciting. And don't forget, afterwards, you have classics like the Milwaukee Mile, like Silverstone, like Texas, like Phillip Island right afterwards as well. So once you're done at Indianapolis, your focus has to be going towards trying to battle at short tracks, tough road courses, and tough speedways.
And Lorenzo, there was some technical issues. You are now on the line and ready to answer this question. What I'm looking at here, 2 months between Indianapolis and Michigan, 2 months between Michigan and our season finale in Auto Club. These Triple Crown races with double points are crucial. And when I say crucial, it's hard to really describe how your season can turn around with just one bad race.
Yeah, let's just say for Connor Harrington, that would be the prime opportunity for him to get those points and try to clinch the gap to Adam Blocker, or even overtake him depending on circumstances. That's why these events are so important, and you have to make the best out of it. Yeah, they're going to practice hard for this one, and spend a whole lot of time trying to get with the setup, and I can't wait. I can't wait for 2 weeks, and then in each 2 months for those Triple Crown races.
And the best part is it will be on a weekend, so no late race nights for some of these drivers, because it's 9 p.m. on the West Coast, past midnight for drivers on the East Coast of the U.S. And for someone like Henry Bennett, who lives in the U.K., my word, he'll be getting ready, I think, to get activated for his work day in front of him. Time to say goodbye, but before we do that, we have some thank yous to get to as well. So many people help power the Lionheart Racing Series, but let's start with Buttkicker, the title sponsor of the Lionheart IndyCar Series. For sim racers, the Buttkicker Gamer 2 or Simulation Kit as the missing driver-to-car connection, bringing more realism to your sessions. By accurately responding to in-game audio, you can feel the track like never before, providing increased vehicle handling and faster lap times. Are you ready for the most immersive experience in sim racing? Well, for more information, visit thebuttkicker.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LION2021 for 20% off all orders.
The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of the premier gaming gear like the luxury ultra-comfortable cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperxgaming.com, and don't forget to use the promo code LionHRT15 for 15% off orders.
The Sim Experience AccuForce Pro V2 is the premier professional simulation racing steering system. The key to its incredible realism is the groundbreaking direct drive motor control system, providing a driving experience that's second only to the real thing. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, visit simexperience.com.
The Minus 273 is the premier name in karting gloves. Their industry-leading gloves are the super lightweight and durable, made of breathable polyspandex. Whether you're a kart or sim racer, Minus 273 gives you the control to reach victory lane. For more information on Minus 273's full line of gloves and apparel, visit minus273.biz. Don't forget to also use Minus 273 LHRS15 for 15% off orders.
Looking for entertaining sim racing content? Well, look no further than the DMLC Racing channel. Follow former Lionheart Retro Series Driver of the Year Mark Cohn's racing escapades as he battles for wins and avoids wrecks with cat-like reflexes, all while providing commentary sure to make you laugh, cry, or both. Follow along by subscribing to the DMLC Racing channel on YouTube and like his Facebook page at the DMLC Racing channel. It's not just those names, but so many more. For more information on not just these names up on your screen, but the 3 Lionheart competitions, visit lionheartracingseries.com and join the series Discord to stay connected with all the comings and goings of the Lionheart competitions. If you want to stay involved on social media, well, head to Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to stay connected with Lionheart, while ESTV has you covered for all your esports needs. Subscribe to us on racespottv by hitting that red button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series that we get to cover. The month of June will roll on. It is Adam Blocker once more in the HyperX victory lane. It was not easy and it was dramatic, but as we head towards the HyperX Indy 500, all eyes are on the Lionheart IndyCar Series and what the Brickyard will provide. We'll be back in 7 days' time, first for the qualifying, for the following weekend, the Lionheart Indy 500. You can catch it all live on RaceSpot TV, and we'll see you then for more Lionheart competition.